Wow, we're back. And this one is going to be special. Something a little bit different for you viewers, seeing as it's the international break and we have done some of the build up to what is now the Premier League being back this weekend. We wanted to try and put this show together and try to slot it in. Now, we were going to pre record this, but we thought let's do it live because actually it's quite good to get you guys from the chat involved and interacted. I'm not going to take the mic. I'm going to let Lee explain what this is because it was his idea. It's something that he spoke to me about, and it sounded rather easy. So I thought, oh, that'll only take me a couple of minutes. And well, we're 7 minutes past 9 because we're both still trying to sort out if we got it right or not. So Lee, talk to me. What are we doing?
Right. So what we're going to do, and we want you to get involved in the chat with this as well. Like we're going to name our favourite now, not necessarily our best, our favourite players. So, for instance, if you was in an era of the goalkeeper, what goalkeeper would you have on your shirt? Right back, left back, so on and so forth, and whatever. So it's not necessarily your best players, like, you know what I mean? Because we can all go in with the Vieiras, the Bergkamps, and the Henrys, but we're talking about your favourite players now, and then give a reason why that you're one of your favourite players, and things like that. So that's what we're going to do, and I can tell you it's not as easy as what you think it is. I've gone with some of the players that I did really like when I was following them, but then I've got to meet them, and I've actually that's what's turned it for me. Some of them not. So we're going to go along like, first of all, obviously the goalkeepers. We'll explain why, but then we're going to maybe there's a couple of players that we've left out, and we're trying give a reason why that is. And of course, listen, all it is your favourite players. Is there's no right and no wrong in it, like, you know what I mean, and you can give the reasons why they're your favourite players, and you go from there, like, you know what I mean. So Bo 93, don't you dare put it. well, he's gone in front. I'm not saying it, like, you know what I mean. So yeah, look, Bob Wilson's a great one to start off with, like, you know what I mean. So we'll go through it, and you know, as you say, want the chat to get involved with this as well, like, and go from there. And I'll tell you what, if you're just doing it off your head now, it's tough. It's tough. So
doing it off the top of your head's the easy bit. It's when you sit and write it down and you think.
Yeah, you realise ones you've left out.
Some of the players I've missed out are some of my favourite players. I'm like, this is ridiculous, you know, because I can only pick 11, 1 to 11. How do you want to do this, Judge? You want to go through the whole team first, yours, then mine? You want to go through positions?
Me and you would do our goalkeepers first.
Okay.
And then we go right back, central defenders, and then left back.
So we're doing it together in each position. All right.
Well, I'll go first on the goalkeeper if you want, and then you go first on the on your right back and all that, like, you know? So, all right, goalkeeper number 1, surprise! If you don't know who it is, he's unfortunately departed this season. But my favourite goalkeeper of all time has been Aaron Ramsdale. And it's not because, again, you know, we could turn around and say that David Seaman was probably the best goalkeeper, in my opinion. But, you know, I'm pretty sure John Lukic come very, very close in this, to be fair. Of course, Pat Jennings as well. But for me, Aaron Ramsdale is my number 1 goalkeeper. Who have you gone for then, Dan?
Yeah, the best goalkeeper is David Seaman. My favourite goalkeeper is Jens Lehmann. I've gone for Jens Lehmann. Invincible, the funniest on-field antics you're ever going to see. Leader, winner, battler, and probably the biggest compliment you can give him is we didn't miss David Seaman when he came in. So actually he was quality as well. You know what I mean? So I know we're not talking about the best and why he should get ahead of others. For me, he was my favourite goalkeeper that Arsenal have had. Me and my best mate loves him, and he was a goalkeeper. And we used to laugh at him so much at Highbury because the antics on the field stuff. I remember when he was laughing and putting Teddy Sheringham on his backside. Him and Drogba having great antics together. I've gone for him, and I didn't really find this one tough for me because he was one of the funniest people to have. Yeah, he made some clangers. I think goalkeepers do. But he also made some world-class saves, Lee. He was a top goalkeeper. So, yeah, I've gone with Jens Lehmann, mate. And I think that is a great start for both of us.
Yeah, I think what you've gone there, personality-wise, I get what you're saying, like, you know, I actually met Jens Lehmann on a way to, I think can't remember where we was going. I think it might have been Nottingham Forest in the FA Cup. I can't remember where it was. Like he was on the service station going to games. You know, when he was sort of involved with a bit of coaching and whatever, like, he was going up there, had his Arsenal tie and blazer on and all that, like, and very, very nice guy. Aaron Ramsdale, I think I'm the same, you know what I mean? Like, got involved with the fans, and I just liked his personality. It was a difficult time for us with goalkeepers at that stage, and that's why I've gone with him. But yeah, so two characters without a doubt.
There were characters, man, and look, Ramsdale was a fan's favourite. I don't know if the Jens Lehmann was a fan's favourite with everyone. I think he used to drive some of them nuts, right? But I was a fan of him. I was one who did like him, and you know, Harvey's right in the chat. Never conceded a goal getting to a Champions League final, Jens Lehmann, and also played every minute in the Invincible season as well.
Yeah, went up first season, but he did wind me up when he got that bloody penalty.
Yeah,
against Tottenham, like, yeah, I mean, he had that little thing in him and all that, like,
but over Robbie Keane's
face. We would have won that game, and it would have just been it just took the cherry off the top as far as I was, because we didn't beat them. But no, you know, Jens Lehmann definitely up there. Do you
remember as well when he at the Emirates the first season, Thierry Henry scored in the last minute against Man United? Do you remember that game?
Yeah.
He gets the ball and everyone's going, calm it down. And he just falls on the floor and just, ref, I've done my ankle. And I just thought there's nothing wrong with him. But he's such a character like that. It's just funny, you know. I just thought he was funny. That's all I'll say, you know, on the Jens Lehmann. But yeah, two good goalkeepers, but two characters, mate. And that's what this is about, isn't it? This is about, that's what I've gone with. And I've tried to base it on players that I loved in each of those positions at the time. Otherwise, you'll just name Henry and Bergkamp and Ashley Cole.
Yeah, exactly.
It's easy to do the best 11, isn't it? So this one is more about who you liked and characters-wise. Are we starting at right back next?
Yeah, wherever you want to go. You want to go there?
Right back. This one was hard for me. I'll tell you why. Because I grew up with Lee Dixon and loved him. I thought Lauren was very good. I was actually a big fan of Bakary Sagna. He was very underrated and very consistent. But no, not one of them has got the shithousery of this man that I've put in, and it's Ben White. I've gone for Ben White because I just don't know another right back in that position that has made me smile, laugh, and proud like Ben White has the last couple of seasons. I think I've got a lot of respect for Ben White because I wasn't a fan of him when he first come to Arsenal. Not as a person, as a player. I didn't think he was a centre-half that would go on to be an Adams. And obviously, neither did Mikel Arteta. So we played him at right back, and I think he's been brilliant, mate. So I've gone for Ben White, bruv. Who you gone with?
I have gone with Ben White as well.
Benjamin
Yes, I've gone for him as well. I think like longevity, like Lee Dixon was right back for a long while, but he was never one of my favourite players, Lee. If I'll be honest, even though he had my name as well. So, Pat Rice was the sort of first right back that I can remember at Arsenal. And then we had John Hollins, who I quite liked back in the day, like played there for a little while. And Viv Anderson was the next one I really liked. I did like him, but in the end, I just felt, do you know what? And this is what's really good about this this Arsenal side now, that there's a couple of players that have got in on it, like, you know, and that just shows you, you know, and. But Ben White over the last few years, very, very tough. But, you know, like, you know, Abui's been mentioned and all that.
You know, that was one I thought of. Abui was one I thought of.
I did like him. I did like him.
He's hilarious.
But Ben White gets it for me, like, you know what I mean? It is, you know, not the best right back that's ever played for Arsenal, but, you know, certainly a character again. And the one that I can relate to. I like all of that sort of dark art stuff. I really do. I do. So that's why I went with him, like, you know what I mean? So,
listen, Abui, I remember always going to Bolton away, and everyone was saying, you only come to see the Arsenal. You've only come to see the Arsenal. And that was where the song started. You've only come to see Abui. That was absolutely class. You only come to see Abui. And I just thought, this is absolute class like that. That is absolutely got to be. They say, big up Flawless, man. Absolute legend. Make sure you go over Sarcasm City TV. Do you know what, actually? I'll shout this out, Lee. Flawless is doing some great stuff over there with one-on-ones about where people's podcasting career has gone and how you got into content creating. Did it with me. He's done it with Northside. He's got Daps on it tonight. All of these lads have gone on there. He's got it with Troops, Matisse. So make sure you go over to Sarcasm City TV. You find out a hell of a lot about the people that you work with alongside in terms of what their backgrounds are like and everything. It's a really good show. He might even get you on there, Judges, soon, mate.
I'm up for that. Like, I'm really up for that.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Big up to Flawless, man. Okay. I think Ian's a bit confused because Ian thinks we're doing the best team, and we're not. Lee Dixon was the best right back we have had FFS. No, he was, Ian. I agree with you. However, we're not doing that. We're doing our favourite players. And I love Dixon, but Ben White, in terms of shithousery, for me, has won me over. So there we go. Flawless has said you're more than welcome, Judges, as well.
No, I'd love to come on, like, Flawless. You know, let's get it sorted then, like, yeah.
Legend. Make sure you do that, people. Go sub to Sarcasm City TV. Big up, Flawless. Look, are we going left back next, or what do you want to do?
Go left back. This is a difficult one for me because, again, and I think it's been mentioned in the chat a few times, Sammy Nelson. I've met Sammy Nelson. Lovely person as well, like, you know. But I've met Nigel Winterburn before he played for Arsenal when he was at Wimbledon. Kenny Sampson, to me, was one of the best. I think you might go down the Kenny Sampson route because
I've met Kenny Sampson.
You've met Kenny Sampson, so I don't know what you've got. You might have gone down that route, like, you know. But loved Nigel Winterburn as a player, definitely underrated. But as a person, he's such a really nice guy as well. So I went with Nigel. Winterburn for me was my left back line, and I just felt that, again, one of those players that would put his foot in, had a bit of the Ben Whites about him, shall I say, like, and I enjoyed him, like, you know. So and I'll tell you what, mate, you mentioned Nelson Vivas there. Now I know he wasn't great, but I did like him.
I loved him.
I did like him. So I actually did think about him as well, but I went with Nigel Winterburn in the end.
He was one on right back, I thought, of Nelson Vivas, because he played kind of both positions. He used to come on and just get sent off, didn't he?
Yeah. You know what I mean?
Come on, kick people, that was it.
I like that. I like that.
I love it.
You know what I mean? If it ain't going your way, kick the hell out of someone. You know what I mean? Like, I actually like that in a player, like, you know what I mean? So I was a big up for him, even though he weren't the greatest. But I actually went with Nigel in the end, who could kick people as well, like, to be fair.
Yeah, no, fair play, man. Yeah, listen, I have met Kenny Sanson, but I didn't see him play, Lee. So I didn't pick him. I didn't pick him, but I have met Kenny, and he's a lovely bloke. It's obvious who I've gone for when you think of it.
Ashley Cole?
No, it's a player who still plays for us.
You come for the old Scotsman, yeah. You come for the Scotsman. Fantastic. Oh, yeah, you do love him. I'll tell you, like, you know what I mean? So,
I just when he joined, I've never had that much of a personal connection with someone that I just so wanted to see in an Arsenal shirt with that mentality. I think because he was the first one. You know, Arsenal were that soft underbelly, weren't they? And he came in, and I thought, that is just what I want to see. He come in, he give his all. Yeah, he's injured. Everyone laughs and thinks I love him. I'm in love with Tierney. I love Tierney. I'd still have him there. I absolutely love Kieran Tierney. Everything about him, mentality-wise, professionalism, winning mentality. I honestly believe that kid would run through a brick wall for you. And when I can look and I can connect with someone like that, I think, do you know what? I think he's just ace. That's the sort of personality I want around the place. When he comes up, rocks up with a Tesco's bag, you know, he's human. You know what I mean? Like, I loved everything about him. You know, in that thing where he's doing that up to, you know, I'm just thinking, you are quality. Like, everything about you. It's absolutely snowing it down, bucket it down with snow. He's sitting there in shorts. Do you know what I mean? And there's that famous goal he scores against West Brom where the snow's coming down. And it's just so fitting. Do you remember? It's just so fitting for Kieran Tierney. So I thought that one was an obvious one for me. And I don't know, I've never had any left backs that have been my favourite players. Ashley Cole I loved until obviously he left. Winterburn, part of a brilliant back line. Thought Nacho Monreal was really underrated, to be fair. But for me, it has to be him, man. It has to be Kieran Tierney.
I'm with you on that one. Like,
you can understand why I've gone for him. Like,
100%. 100%.
Okay, centre backs, man. Do you want to do them as a pair?
Go on, then do them as a pair. Go on, what you got?
I'll let you go first, then. Go on.
I found this very, very difficult because when you play football, I can relate to all the midfield players and forwards, but centre halves and that, I've never played that, but I never wasn't a centre half, so I can't relate to it. But I've gone for one that was very much in the Ben White and Nigel Winterburn sort of era. I've been fortunate enough to meet both of these guys, so I've gone for Martin Keown and Tony Adams. I could not leave Tony Adams out, like, you know what I mean. You know, I did like him when he played. You know what I mean. I loved the way he played and all that. David O'Leary was very, very close because obviously spent a bit of time with David O'Leary as well, and he was a class act. I've actually the other one that would surprise you, which I put in. I had four central defenders for this. Sol Campbell wasn't in there. I like Sol, but that was funny enough. Adams and Keown, David O'Leary and David Luiz. I went with him. I did like him.
You did, yeah.
I did like him, like, you know what I mean. But it was very close between him and Keown, to be fair. But I went with Adams and Keown in the end.
Wow. Look, Keown and Bold actually did go through my mind. Keown, for the Van Nistelrooy incident alone, was class. Yeah. I mean, he deserves to get in there, really. Bold, very underrated, underappreciated. There weren't really anyone from the Emirates era that come into my mind from my first years moving there. For Marlon, I actually quite liked Thomas Vermaelen, if you remember him. Thought he was a hard man. Wasn't a massive fan of Koscielny and Mertesacker in terms of that. And I'll say this now. There was no centre-back in my time that I thought, wow, you are one of my favourites, apart from these two that I've picked. One of them is Tony Adams, because when I grew up, he was what a captain is all about for me. And his personality shone through. I liked the fact that he had problems off the field that he dealt with. I've got a card from him. I remember telling you the story that, you know, he signed a card for me on the Millennium, so he was still playing for Arsenal in England at the time. So I've always got that in my heart. So I had to pick Tony Adams. And the partner for him is someone that I absolutely love and have not loved a centre-back as much as I ever have, is Saliba. Because I just cannot fathom how good this guy can be at this age, at that level. I just don't think I've ever seen it before. So I have to go with him. You know, Kolo Touré got a fans' favourite, you know, Sol Campbell, because he come from Spurs. But if I'm honest with you, I wasn't in love with either of them. But for me, Adams and Saliba, I could quite comfortably say, are the two centre-halves that I would put ahead, light years ahead of all the others. And I respect the others, even Gabriel I like, Keown, Bold, Kolo Touré, Sol Campbell, you know, Vermaelen, Koscielny, all the guys that I've grown up with. But nah, none of them come close, mate. It's got to be Adams and Saliba. One old, one current.
Do you know what? I'm going to say this now. I think in a couple of more years, they could be like the favourites. I just felt that, you know, like longevity, Adams and Keown got it for me. But I'm with you on the Saliba Gabriel. I love the pair of them. Unbelievable at the moment. Saliba, you know, I do really, really love as well. Like, you know, so that's a great shout. You know what I mean? Like, I just went on it with they weren't there. They've not been there long enough at the moment. But but at this moment in time, I'm with you on the Saliba one. Like, you know what I mean? I do really. He's one player at centre half, and you know this because when we spoke about it, that I see him in pre-season, I come back and I was raving about. I've never done that.
Yeah.
Before. Never gone. That. Do you remember we went to Crystal Palace? It was the first game. And I said, I was excited for you because you was going to see Saliba.
Yeah. I always remember you going, you wait. And I was like, all right, I'm going to. I mean, I've seen him play like a couple of minutes, but let's see. And I just remember ringing you up going, what the hell is that? That is an absolute monster of a centre.
I was excited about seeing a player of that age. So, yeah.
No, he has to get in. That's why I picked him. I've never done that with any other player at centre half, other than seeing Tony Adams and believing he was so much better than everybody else. And his leadership qualities are there as well. But personality-wise, character-wise, and I've got to say that about Saliba as well. I love everything about him. You can tell he actually loves Arsenal as well, you know. And yeah, I thought those two. But listen, your shouts are there. Keown was right on the tip of my tongue. Like,
Yeah.
Van Nistelrooy incident alone is unbelievable, you know. And I
And
remember he
he's met him
scored
as
them
well,
two
didn't he?
Champions League goals as well. I
Yeah,
always
he's met
remember
him
him
as well.
scoring them two Champions League goals. I always remember him warming up when Ray Parlour mugged him off in the Invincible game. You know, he's had so many incidents. I think Keown is class. I went to his testimonial at Highbury, Keown's as well. That was class. And he was singing into the microphone, Keown. There's only one Keown. It's just, he's a character, mate.
He is, and I'm like, we've both been fortunate enough to meet him, and he is an absolute gentleman.
Quality bloke.
Very, very quality.
Yeah, it's hard. I've met, you know, because I met him. You always have a connection when you meet people, but I just couldn't put him ahead of Saliba or Tony Adams. I just couldn't do it.
Yeah,
but, you know, it's tough. It's tough.
And when I went to Kevin's funeral, he was there for the whole lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
just shows you about the man. You know what I mean? I'm not like, so, you know, they've all got busy lives and everything there, but he was there all day and you know, like all night as well. Like, do you know what I mean? Just top guy.
He was. Okay, listen. I suppose we'll do the centre midfielders. Do you want to do this one by one?
Yeah, let's do it one by one.
All right, cool. Whose go is it? I'm lost.
No, shall I go? Let's get it out there. Listen, they're midfield players that I could have gone for. Vieira, Fabregas got left out of this, like, you know. But I went with Edu. Now, I'll tell you why I went with Edu, right? Is I did like him when he was playing. I did relate to him as a player, and the way he played and all that. But I knew it. But when I've met him, he genuinely is just. I get on with him really well. He's just a nice guy, and that's what won it in the end for me. It's what won it for me. Like, you know what I mean? On the payroll, yeah, of course I am. Like, you know, I wish. But yeah, so I have gone Edu, and do you know what? Over Vieira is shocking, but I'm going to be really honest. And there's only one player out of the midfield that I've not met, and all the others I have. But it is a big influence on me. Like, you know what I mean? You know. Can say Gilberto. I've met Gilberto. What a lovely guy he is, by the way. And you know, so but no, I've gone for Edu. Sorry, up yours in the chat. Edu is getting in.
Listen, I knew you were going to go for him because I know you met him and you were like buzzing when you met him, said how great it was, and he has definitely got a connection with you. Whenever he sees you, he makes time for you. So yeah. I totally appreciate why you've gone for him. I haven't gone for Edu. I've gone for Patrick Vieira. Now, when I was growing up, I had favourite players. I'm not going to tell you who my favourite players were growing up because you might hear them later, right? And it would ruin it. But Vieira was one of them. Yeah. And I think when you grow up, you're a different era to me, Lee. But when I was growing up, I was still young when Vieira was first got in the team. In fact, I was only 8 years old when we signed him, right? Or 9 years old I was. At that age, 8, 9, you love the strikers, don't you? The attacking players. Who's scoring the goals? I loved Patrick Vieira because he was the lad in the middle that literally made everything work. And that was the one for me I looked at and I thought, why is everyone not appreciating him? Is it because he don't score? Is it because he's not like the flair sort of player? I think he's probably one of the most important players Arsenal have ever had. And I think the biggest compliment you can give him is that when Tony Adams left the captaincy, he just picked it up and cracked on. But his character is absolutely second to none. Like his battle with Roy Keane wins it for me. Yeah. Like that is why I've picked him. You know, I couldn't leave Vieira out. He's one of my favourites.
I'm with you really. I'm going to be like, you know, Vieira or Edu, and it's only because I've never met Patrick. If I met Patrick, I probably would be Vieira. I'll be honest with you. When I was still playing when Patrick was playing, and you know, he used to put the Vic on his shirt.
Yeah,
remember that? Like, I started doing that as well. Like, you know what I mean, and putting a big lump of Vic on my shirt. Like, you know what I mean. Our the cleaning person, the kit man, used to do his nut about. Like, you know what I mean. And he'd go like, hey, "It's all right for Patrick." Like, you know what I mean. He used to come in the dressing room and go, "All right for Patrick. He gets a new shirt every time." Like, well, yeah, but like, you know, and I'll be really honest. All the Arsenal players were doing it. Like, you know, all the Arsenal supporter players were putting it. The old bit of it on their shirt and all that, like, you know. And do you know what? It works. It works, especially in the winter. Bit of cleans your whole throat and everything like that. But yeah, so that was one of the, and I tried to play like him as well. Now, you know, like, I didn't mod on my game on it, but I was certainly, you know, yeah, probably Vieira should get it for me, really, but he don't.
Well, who's next to Edu then?
He's one of my all-time favourites, and I've never met him, and people will be shocked by it. But here you go, Aaron Ramsey. I absolutely loved Aaron Ramsey. I loved him when he first got into the team. I loved the way that he played, the box-to-box sort of thing, got on the end and scored a few goals. Lovely bits of skill. But that's the way I played a little bit. I'm not saying I was as good as Aaron Ramsey or whatever, like, but I was a sort of box-to-box midfield player that nicked a few goals. And I just absolutely loved him. I thought he was a class act off the pitch. Absolutely love to meet him. I would, like, you know what I mean? But Michelle's favourite as well, like, you know. So yeah, it's just something about him that I liked, and scored some wonderful goals. I remember my old man wasn't a lover of him, you know what I mean, like I was. So if Ramsey had a bad game, he'd be on the phone going, "Oh, your man ain't had a good game today," like, you know what I mean. And if Ramsey had a good game, I used to go, "Oh, we've had a good game," like, and scored a few goals, and we was always bantering each other on it, like, you know. But I absolutely loved Aaron Ramsey, so he gets in my team.
Yeah, that one doesn't shock me as it would some of the viewers, because I know your love for him. I was with your old man. He weren't my favourite player. I've always preferred Jack Wilshere. And I must say, I always felt Aaron Ramsey had so much potential, but I don't think people appreciate how he come back from that leg break.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Because that was to go back from what he did and carry on like basically nothing had happened was pretty phenomenal. The season 2013-14, he was unbelievable. And I remember he got the goal against Hull and won us the cup final. Very good in the FA Cup finals for us, actually, as well. Against Chelsea in 17, he was phenomenal too. So I think you're talking about the Emirates era in terms of importance. He's probably been one of the better players, to be fair, because he's won us the trophies. But he didn't get in mine. So alongside Vieira, I have struggled with this one because I still feel left down that he never come back to us and he went to play for Chelsea instead. But I have gone for Fabregas.
Yeah, I've got his name on there and all, like that. I mean, and Jack Wilshere, but
Fabregas was so hard, man. It was so hard because Jack Wilshere was the one. Santi Cazorla, I absolutely loved him. Loved watching him play. I thought he was beautiful to watch. Petty and Gilberto deserve a mention, but they were never my favourites. But Fabregas was my favourite player. Between the years of, I'd say, 2008 to 2011 when he left, was it? He was our best player. He was just leading us, driving us forward. Incredible. And he was my favourite. And every time I needed something to happen, I'd look at him and I'd go, bit of a quiet game, Cesc. Boom, goal, assist. Phenomenal, mate. Absolutely phenomenal. And I remember when he came on at 16, 17, and he just looked levels, mate, for that age. I thought, he is slotted in. And a lot of people at the time thought, well, the only reason he's slotted in is because you've got a brilliant Invincible side. But it weren't that. He was good. He was brilliant, you know. And in the red currant kit, I remember him scoring against Juventus, which is still one of my favourite games I've ever had at Highbury. It's actually the first game my dad went to Highbury with me, 2006. That was the first time we'd ever gone together. I've been going for years, like in a bit bars. We could never get tickets really back then. It was really hard back then in Highbury. And me and my dad went to that game, and Fabregas was superb that night. Scored the first goal against Buffon, set up Thierry Henry for the 2-0. And he was an absolute monster and machine. And he went to the Emirates leading us into it. It's just such a shame he never got to lift a trophy as a captain because he deserved it. He was brilliant for us. So, I've gone Vieira and Fabregas, mate.
Do you know one of the reasons that I didn't go for Fabregas, and he was one of my favourite, but I couldn't get really attached to him because I knew one day that he would be going to Barcelona. I knew that was always going to happen, like, do you know what I mean? But, like, I don't think I've seen a better teenager than Cesc Fabregas.
No.
When he first come in, I thought, wow, lacks a little bit of power. I don't know if you remember a game when I just thought, wow, we was playing Spurs in a League Cup tie, and we was 2-0 down, and he come. I think it was might have even been the semi-final, he come on at half time. We ended up drawing 2-2, and he just took over the game. I just remember him going, wow, he's just come on against Spurs in a tricky sort of place and just done
For
that.
me, it was the Aston Villa at home.
Yeah,
He just come back from injury. Do you remember that one?
Yeah.
He came on, free kick.
Yeah.
And then he got the penalty, but then he got bloody injured again.
Yeah, he got injured doing it.
I remember Wenger going mental and then looking and going, oh, no, he's injured himself. You know, so look, incredible footballer. I understood why he left, went to Barcelona. I was just gutted we didn't get him back, you know.
Yeah, and he's explained that, and like he said, he probably regrets that lot. But I also remember the League Cup final against Birmingham. I don't know if you remember it. We played Bolton in the midweek, and he got injured on the Tuesday or the Wednesday. Like, you know, if he hadn't got injured, we'd have won that cup final easily. Like,
oh, no.
He got
injured. Van Persie and Van.
It might have been Stoke. It was one of those. It was one of those horrible teams, and he got injured. I remember had an hamstring injury, and we was not quite the same with him out of the team. Like, you know what I mean, but. And I swear by, you know what I mean, like a lot of people got the ump and started going Wenger out after that game, which I thought was harsh at the time. But that's where it started. And I swear, if Fabregas would have played in that game, we'd have won it because he'd have just dominated midfield.
Look, that season was a horrible season, if you remember it rightly, because we ended up going out to we were top of the league. We were in the final of the League Cup, where it had, I think it was Blackburn in the FA Cup and Barcelona in the Champions League. We'd just beaten Barcelona 2-1 with Arshavin. We'd lost the bloody League Cup final. We lost to Blackburn in the FA Cup. And then we went out in the second leg to Barcelona and everything was over. And I remember getting to February thinking, how the hell, 3 weeks ago, I thought we were going to win at least 2 trophies. We've lost it all. We've lost it all. And we didn't win anything. Home to Blackburn. I mean, I just remember thinking, wow. But look, Fabregas was incredible. I can't argue with Vieira, Fabregas. You know, for me, Cazorla deserves a mention. Ramsey and Wilshere, fair play. But I never really had I was never really, they weren't my favourites, you know.
No, I'm with you there. Brilliant.
Yeah. Let's move to the left wing. I struggled with this one. Big time. I'll let you go next. Go on.
Well, this was a tough one because there's loads of players that you could have chose from here, but I went with Liam Brady in the end, and I've scrubbed out. Well, I'll reveal who I scrubbed out later on because it affects the other side. But the one player I have to say, when I first started following Arsenal. He wasn't really a wide left player, by the way. He was more inside, but I've had to fit him in. Simple as that, like, you know. And I remember it now, going to the Arsenal, and my dad would just said, look, you just watch Liam Brady, just watch Chippy. That's the player, and you just watch him. What a left foot, wand of a left foot. Wasn't the greatest Arsenal team back in that day there, but he was just head and shoulders above everybody else, and like you know, eventually we won the FA Cup when he was unbelievable in that. And for about 3 or 4 years, just growing up as a kid, do you know when someone just has that impression on you, just watching him play, like, you know, and absolutely gutted when he left. Even more gutted because I've been fortunate enough to meet Liam on a few occasions socially as well, telling you the story why he left and shocking when you hear about it, like, you know, that Arsenal didn't do enough to keep him. But just a wonderfully gifted footballer. Anybody that's of that age would, I think anybody of my age and a bit older would probably put him in their best 11, which is, you know, considering what we've had championship winning sides, and he wasn't involved he never won a title with Arsenal. He then went to Italy and done fantastically well with Italy. But listen, there was so many you could choose from on this left-hand side. You know what I mean? Like Freddie Ljungberg's got to be up there. I'll I think maybe you might have gone for that one. Mark Overmars, I really like there. But I tell you, someone that I did like in the George Graham era, and I've met him as well, and it was lovely for Anders Limpar when he first came to Arsenal. You know what I mean? He was fantastic. Harvey, my dad's favourite was Georgie Armstrong. If my dad would have had him in his, he loved him. Big Arsenal favourite at the time. But I've gone for Liam, and I think I'm going to have to say, I'll hold my hands up again because of the influence of meeting him and getting to know him and all that swayed it as well. But not only a wonderful footballer, a wonderful person as well, and a pleasure to be in his company. He's great company, great laugh, piss taker, has a few beers and gives it out. Like, wonderful character. So Liam Brady for me.
Oh, that's a great shout. I mean, look, I never saw him play, but the biggest thing that did stick on my mind during COVID, they used to play reruns of old school games, and I remember watching the '79 game from start to finish, and I watched him and I thought, you are head and shoulders above anyone, literally levels above anyone else on the pitch in '79. He was just phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal that game. And I think he ended up setting up all the goals, if I'm correct.
Virtually all of them,
I think it was virtually all 3 goals.
He's involved in all of them, right?
Yeah, he was absolutely superb. But obviously, I haven't gone for him because I didn't see him play, Lee, so it's different for me.
Yeah, I get that.
Overmars was one I mentioned because I just loved him in the 90s. I thought in the 98 season, he was incredible. I thought he was as important as anyone else on the field that year. I didn't go for him. Alexis Sanchez, I mean, best Emirates player for me. Absolutely incredible. Loved him. But I've gone for my favourite left winger, who I think is probably the best left winger that we've had, and that's Pires. I couldn't leave him out because he was my favourite player back then. I've gone for players who were my favourite, or I put on the back of the shirt, And sometimes it ain't the best, but sometimes it is just quality outshines. And I thought he was so important. I remember in 2002, he was one of our best players. He got that horrible injury and he went down. I thought, oh no, when he went down, I just thought, we ain't going to win anything. I mean, we went on to win the double that year, funny enough, but he was so good that year, mate. He was looking absolutely phenomenal. Brilliant in the unbeaten season. The reason he left was because obviously we hooked him in the Champions League final, which I kind of get because he should never have done that, but he did. And I just think he was levels, mate. He was absolutely outstanding. Some of the goals he scored, I mean, the one against Villa where he chipped Schmeichel. He's got another one where he chips Paul Jones against Southampton. He's got phenomenal assists and goals. His link-up play with Thierry Henry was outstanding. He's brilliant with Ashley Cole down that left-hand side. I can't, honestly, I can't speak highly enough of him, really. And I just loved everything about his turnaround at Arsenal. And what I mean by that is when he first came, he was getting kicked to bits, mate.
Yeah.
He was getting absolutely kicked to bits. And everyone was like, this player ain't going to last 2 minutes. He's weakling. And I just love players who prove people wrong. And I thought he did. I thought he was brilliant. So, yeah, I'm a fan of him, mate. And I've gone with him on the left.
Hey, listen, I was very close to him because I had I'll tell everybody a story. Like, I had the best meeting with Robert ever. Like, you know what I mean? Coming out of Chelsea a few years ago now, quite a long while ago. Still, like, very much on my profile pictures and things like that. Coming out of Chelsea, he comes up to me like he don't know who I am, obviously at that, and whatever. And he just said, "Look, how'd you get? Sorry, I wonder if you can help me. I'm trying to get to him and his mate." He said, "Is there any? Can I get to? How do I get to Earls Court?" So I said, "Well, you got to go up here. There's this. I think it's a Sainsbury's or a Tesco's. And when you get to there, you do a left and it's straight down, like, you know what I mean." And he went, "Oh, like, you know." He goes, "Where are you going?" So I said, I'm going there, like, you know what I mean, like Earls Court. He said, "Well, is it all right if I tag along with you?" So I said, "Nah."
Do you mind, mate?
So I said, like, of course. And it was the best sort of 15, 20-minute walk I've ever had because I was asking him questions. He was talking to me. People were stopping their cars, getting out of their cars to have photos with him and all that. And he says, "I'm really sorry about this." I said, "Look, don't worry about it. Like, you know what I mean? Take your time." Because I wanted it to go on and on and on, like, you know what I mean? So, you know, he was telling me like his favourite goal is two. He said, obviously the Aston Villa goal was his was one, but he also talked very much about his Southampton goal. Do you remember that one when I think it was
I did say that. That was one of my favourite goals against Paul Jones. He hit Paul Jones, didn't he?
Yeah, like
that was incredible.
Run to the first game of the Invincibles, 6-0, I think.
That was 6-1. Yeah,
6-1 was it? But that. So he turned around and says that was his favourite. So and then
I got a hat trick that night. Who else got a hat trick? Remember?
Pennant.
Yeah, Jermaine Pennant. It was.
Yeah. And then we went round the corner, and there it was, the sign, Earls Court. And I said, "There's Earls Court." And he said, "Oh, thank you very much. Thanks for doing this for me." And we had a hug, and he went. And I was gutted, absolutely gutted, like, you know what I mean? But it was just a fantastic walk.
Mate, you can't believe you didn't put him in. This is how tough it's been, man.
Yeah, that's how tough it was. You know what I mean? So, but you know, wonderful, wonderful player. And I'll tell you what a lovely meeting that was. We was talking about all sorts of things, and I didn't want it to end. And he was like fantastic, talking away like, and he was so appreciating that I was walking him to Earls Court. If he'd have said he wants to get to the Emirates, I'd have walked to the Emirates with him. There you go, like, you know what I mean, from there.
Mate, incredible. What a story, man.
Story. Yeah, fantastic, like, you know, fantastic.
Pires for me, it was easy, that one. Well, I say it was easy. I did start by
I get that. I get that.
You know what I mean? It had to be. I kept thinking, shall I not? And I don't know why, but when I was putting this together, I was thinking, nah, but he's an obvious one because he was so fit. But I thought, but so what if he was an obvious one? It's my choice. Do you know what I mean? I've got to go with who I loved, and I loved Pires. You know, he's my favourite. But who have you put on the right hand side then, Luke?
I put on the right the Magic Man. I loved him. I loved him when he was playing. Like, you know, certainly one of my favourite players. Wanted to play like him at times. Listen, this is how bad it was. And listen, I've met Paul many occasions. I've never told him this story, but. I just, you know, was worried when I first met Paul because I was worried about, you know what I mean, like, is he going to be funny or, you know, let me down in some sort of way? Do you know what I mean? I know that sounds bad. My God, he didn't. He's just the most loveliest guy ever, like, you know what I mean? I get on real with him, you know what I mean, like. We've become to know each other and everything like that. But I'd never tell him like that. I used to do this, but I used to have when I was playing, we used to get a sponsor. I had a sponsor, and he'd buy me my boots for the season. And I was very much my favourite ever player wore these boots. So I was always a Nike, you know. But then Paul Merson went into these high-tech. Don't know if you remember these high-tech boots with the big tongues. Do you remember them?
Yeah, I do. Old school.
Purple like thing and all that. Like. So I said to my sponsor, yeah, I'm going to go for high-tech this year. So he bought me a pair of molds and a pair of studs in high-tech. They were the worst boots I ever had. Like, I mean, awful. Weren't comfortable. I had to have a bloody year with these boots, and I could not wait to the following season to get out of them, like, you know what I mean, and get back into Nike. But I wore them because Paul Merson had them. They look good. They had the big tongues flapping around and all that, like, you know. But oh my God, I blame Merson for it. My feet were. I had problems with my feet now. I blame those high-tech boots. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, right. So that was but I loved him as a player. I love ability-wise and all that. And I'll tell you, this is another true story. He only had 1 year under Arsene Wenger, then he left and for Middlesbrough. And I said to my brother, who's a Spurs fan, like, that's it. I'm so disappointed. I ain't going watching the Arsenal no more. That's it. I'm done with them. I'm done with them. Like, you know, how can they get rid of him and all that? Like, of course, Overmars come in for tea, and like. We started winning, and I was going to the games. And my brother, I thought you weren't going no more because of Merson, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but I was a massive, you know what I mean? Like, I'd never tell him like how big. He doesn't know how big a fan that he was. And I'll tell you something with Paul Merson. He said to me one time we was having a conversation, and he was going out, you know, like he was sort of saying he weren't a great player and all that. Like, and I said, Paul, I don't think you realise how good you actually was, and you know what I mean. I worshipped him. I thought he was that good. You know what I mean? Like, and he like had a little bit self doubt. You know what I mean? Like he was talking about England and things like that, and he's saying like, you know, that he wasn't. He should. I said you should have played for England a lot more, and he was down himself. He just. Like, I just thought he was a wonderful, wonderful player. Like, you know, wonderful.
Yeah,
wonderful.
man. Listen, it's a great shout. This one I changed last minute. I changed it last minute, this one, because the player I had there didn't really play there. I kind of put him in there because I wanted to, but I thought,
Right,
nah, let's not cheat. Let's actually, because he really played more over on the left than in the centre. The player I moved out last minute was Thomas Rosicky. I loved Rosicky. I absolutely loved Rosicky. I put him in and I thought he didn't really play right. You know, I liked Parler. Rocky, I was a bit too young. I remember him, but I was very young. Theo Walcott was a very underrated player in terms of scoring over 100 goals for Arsenal, but I didn't have that connection with him. The Ox I loved, but I didn't really have that favourite connection.
Oh, yes, I like the Ox.
Did love the Ox. So I took Rosicky out, and I'm like, do I just say that he did play there because he weren't really a right winger? Freddie, I loved with his red hair that season, phenomenal. But I took Rosicky out, and I kind of am a bit annoyed that he hasn't made it. He's kind of number 12 on my list, but I've put Saka in there, mate. I love him. I just don't know how you can't put Saka in this.
Wow,
he's my favourite player, and the player for me that I will look back at, even if he leaves, like, you know, sooner than I want him to. I loved everything about the kid. I've never ever been in awe of someone's personality and technical ability at the same time as much as I have with Saka. I don't think I've met someone so lovable in all my life. He's the only player I know that any single fan will say I love. Whether you're Gary Neville, Jamie Carragher, whether you're Jamie Redknapp Spurs, whether you're Tim Sherwood Spurs, whether you're Arsenal, United, City, Liverpool, Newcastle, Villa, or Raguna, you love Bukayo Saka. As terms of favourites go, what this whole podcast is about, I cannot do this without putting Bukayo Saka in it because he is a favourite of everybody's in world football. So it has to be him, man. And look, it made it easier for me to leave Rosicky out because of who was going in place of him. Because Saka is unreal, man.
I think I love Saka. Again, I haven't gone with him because of the longevity.
I get that.
But you know, like you could say that about Ramsdale and whatever. It's just that, you know, Paul Merson.
Do you know what, though? Let me just say quickly, right? Because you're right in what you said about longevity. You know, he's only had one season less than Robert Pires already.
Has he really? Yeah, I know. Like, you know what I mean? Look, listen, it's a great shout. It's a great shout, and I'm up there. I'm with you on that. I'm a big Saka fan.
Yeah. It made me happy putting him in. I was like, Rosicky, how am I going to not fit him in? Cazorla, likewise, I was thinking, I love him, you know, I'm real. And I thought, I'm putting Saka in. That's made it better. It made it feel better for me somehow. Do you know what I mean? So, look, I'm a big fan of him, and I have to put him in. And, yeah, that's why he goes in.
Brilliant.
So, look, we've got two positions left. I haven't gone for two strikers. I've gone for a 10 and a 9. But have you gone for two strikers?
I've gone for two strikers back in the day. And listen, when it comes to striker, I'm telling you, I've left out of here. I've left who I did really, really like was Nicolas Anelka. When he first came in, I really, really liked Nicolas Anelka. Ian Wright, I've left out of this. You know what I mean? And I love Ian Wright, and I think everybody would say that as well. Like Kai Havertz is one of my favourites.
You love him.
I love him. There's something. This is what I can't understand when people go, "How do you love?" I love Kai Havertz. I always have liked him. You know, and so that was there. I like Tony Woodcock back in the day. Paul Mariner, I see, was mentioned earlier on, and all that. Like Paul Mariner, but I'm going to go. I'll say my first one first. He's the player that really made me follow Arsenal home and away. I had my hair like him. I tried to play my football like him. He wore Nike boots. I wore Nike boots. My son is named after him. the most nervous it was when I actually went to meet him. I've done a show with him, and he is as lovely as it can ever be. Like, you know, I'm pretty sure people of my age would also say if he was your fans' favourite, he was everybody's fans' favourite. I don't care what he said. Weren't the best player. Didn't probably work out for him, but I think his signing also put Arsenal back on the map. Because we was going through a real bad time at the time, 1983, and it has to be Charlie Nicholas.
I knew where that was going. I knew that was coming. Charlie Nicholas, what a player and what a bloke as well. I know you had to go and do a podcast with him. I remember watching that. Great, and they knew who you were, and it was lovely for you. And that's what you want, man. Your heroes don't let you down. And I know because look, he was before my time. What made me laugh the most was you had your hair like him. What happened, Lee?
He actually said the same as well. Do you know when we done this podcast, and they said, like, you know, ask the questions, right? And he thanked I when we done the podcast, about a month later, he was doing a show, and I actually got invited to it, and we met up again, and he remembered me, and he actually mentioned me when he was on stage, and we was having a chat about it, and he said, thanks for asking this question, because no one had ever asked it to him. Like, and the question I asked him was, I said, what was it like when you come out of Highbury or going out, and every Arsenal fan, and I mean every Arsenal fan, had that haircut that he said that he done the hair. He had it all straight and curly at the back, like, you know. And my mum was an hairdresser back in the day, so she would do it for me, like, so I'd have like this curly hair at the back and it like straight on top. And he said, like, it was incredible. Like, he'd come out of Highbury and he'd see everybody, you know, like when he was warming up, having this haircut and everything like that. And the reason that he had the haircut and he followed from it, do you remember, like, U2, Bono? He looks a little. He said to me, I looked a little bit like him, and he wanted to be like him, like, you know, so he sort of followed him, and then everybody followed what Charlie Nicholas done. So it was an amazing one. I'll get a photo up of someone.
Carol wants to see. Look at her. She's like, we need a photo. We need a photo.
Next time around, I'll get a couple of photos. I have got a few, yeah, that was it. But the women loved him. I'm telling you that women loved him. You know what I mean? I think a lot of Arsenal fans, women at that time, would go to Arsenal because of Charlie. Everybody wanted to be him. Everybody wanted to be him. And yeah, he was like, everybody loved him as well. Like, you know what I mean? Paul Merson, I think, named his son after. He's got a boy called Charlie. He named his son after him as well. Like, you know. So Charlie Nicholas. Yeah, and I said to him, I did actually chat to him, and I did say to him, "You the reason that I started going home and away. It was because of Charlie Nicholas." And he said, have I got to apologise or thank you? Or, you know what I mean? He was great. He is great. Like, you know what I mean? I absolutely adored him, and loved him.
Nah, listen, that's a great shout, man. That really is. That's a great shout. Look, I didn't go with two strikers. I went with a number 10 and a striker. The best number 10 we've ever had at the club is Dennis Bergkamp, and he was one of my favourite players. However, I've not put him in.
Ooh, I'm sure.
I was really struggling to not put Thomas Rosicky in this position, but my number 10 is your right winger, the Magic Man.
Lovely. No, I love it.
Because he was, along with another player, my favourite player growing up. And Dennis Bergkamp was one of my favourite players, but alongside some of the greats in the other teams. I thought Bergkamp changed Arsenal, if I'm honest with you. And it's crazy that he hasn't made this, because he was one of my favourite all-time players. He's the best player to wear the shirt, in my opinion. I know a lot of people give it to Thierry Henry and other players, but for me, Dennis Bergkamp changed Arsenal. To not put him in here is absolutely mad, but I preferred Paul Merson as a favourite player. If you wanted me to say who's the better one, it's clearly Bergkamp. But for favourites, 11s, I've got to put Merson in for the reasons that you had him. He is absolutely, yes, they'll say, look behind you, Potsy. I know he's on my wall. He's a phenomenal player, that's why. But look, Merson gets in. For the same reasons as you. When I was growing up, he was one of my favourite players. I actually think he went on and was someone that people don't talk about enough as being. I think I'll say this. I still think he's got one of the best right foots Arsenal have ever had.
Yeah.
I still think he's got one of the best right foots. See a pass. I remember I read his book and he said in '98 he couldn't believe Glenn Hoddle would called him up because he was playing in the Championship. And Glenn Hoddle said, "You've got a better right foot than I ever had, mate." That's what he said. And Glenn Hoddle, that's coming from Glenn Hoddle, by the way.
Wow.
He was one of the best players he has ever lived. So when you look at it, you think, yeah, that Merce was a deserving player. And, you know, look, I understand it was actually Wenger's first player to be sold, weren't it? 99 goals for Arsenal, 99. You just need one more to get 100 goals. But look, an unbelievable player and one that goes in at number 10 for me. And then it leaves us with the striker, Lee. You've got one more striker. And I've got another striker. So let's do it. Go for it. What are you saying?
I've gone for my main man. You know what I mean? Like, you know, can't not. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not going to lie, he wasn't my favourite player when he was playing, but he's become over the years, my favourite ever Arsenal player. Unfortunately, not with us no more. And Kevin Campbell, I can't never go past big Super Kev. Just the best person that I've ever met out of the Arsenal family. Just a wonderful, you know, me and Kevin were really close, as you know, but I can't not have him as my favourite because I loved him. Absolutely loved him as a man.
Yeah.
I still get emotional about it and all that, like, you know. And it's just, for me, an absolute honour that we were mates. I can't still to this day believe that we were mates, like we were. And yeah, when I went to his funeral, I met one of his mates that he knew at the same sort of age, and he turned around and he said, "Oh, he took me off of the terraces and put me into the Arsenal team." Like, you know, and I used to go about, and I was going, "I'd love to have known Kevin like I do." There, I knew Kevin, like when he was playing for Arsenal. Wow, I'd have had I don't know if I'd have enjoyed it as much because you'd have got to know all the players and perhaps not been as passionate, but I don't know, like, you know what I mean? But, you know, just, yeah, I can't speak highly enough of him as a person. Just the main man. And I can't believe he's still not with us. I can't believe it.
No, me neither, mate. And I haven't put him in. And I'll tell you why I haven't put him in. I was going to put him alongside the person I've chose because they did play together. But if this podcast was who's your favourite footballing person, he'd be number one.
Yeah, I get that.
But the podcast is who's my favourite players. Kevin was never one of my favourite players when I was growing up. I loved him, loved watching him. But there was Merce and the other player I'm about to pick that were ahead of him. So I had to go with that and go with my kind of, I had to be real with this. But listen, man, Kev was special. Still by far the best footballing person I ever met, by far. And I've met a few. I know you've met more than me. You have, absolutely. But I've met, you know, a few footballing men. And he's by far the best. And by quite some way as well, by the way. By quite some distance.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if this was favourite footballing people, he'd be the first on the list. In terms of the player, and I'm not saying that Kevin wasn't great because he was, but for Arsenal, I've gone with Paul Merson behind my hero and my favourite player ever, Ian Wright. I can't not put Wrighty in there. I mean, he's the reason I support the club, Lee. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I grew up and I love him. And I watched him play for Palace when I was first getting into football. And then 92, we signed him and I went to Arsenal and I was like, yep, that's the club that I'll be supporting them on. I'm an Essex boy. It was always a London club. It's mad because I'd probably actually be a Palace fan if it was for Wrighty staying. If he was stayed at Palace, I would probably be a Palace fan now. That's how much I loved Ian Wright. But Ian Wright made me fall in love with Arsenal, but I did fall in love with Ian Wright first, you know, which is mad, really, isn't it, when you think of it?
No, I get that. Like, you know what I mean? A wonderful, wonderful player. I loved him as well, like, you know what I mean? That you know, he was just an awesome player, personality-wise as well, like, you know. And, yeah, I can't argue with that, like, you know. Like, you know, like... one of the best finishers ever. I have to say that.
He was. He was.
I think, can I say this? I think he was underrated.
He was massively underrated, and for England, hardly got a mention either.
Yeah, should have played a lot more for England than he actually did.
He should have.
But I also think you have to give him credit for coming from where he did to get to where he got in the end. Drive, everything like that. Nasty on the field. I think I tell you what was very good that he was nasty, and a lot of people didn't like him on the field. I'll be honest, but once he was off the field, he was that you can't help but liked him. So that's what he was like.
Yeah. I must admit, when I was growing up, I loved him. He was our goal scorer. He was the one that was the best. I think the worst thing. There's two things that I think came at the wrong time for Ian Wright. The players around him that were English at the same time, because Andy Cole and Ian Wright hardly played for England, and they were two of the best Premier League strikers that we've seen. Unfortunately, Shearer and Sheringham were there, and they weren't getting ahead of them. That's the first thing. And the other thing is, he beat Cliff Bastin's record, and before you could actually let it settle, Thierry Henry went and did it. So I don't think people ever sort of appreciated how hard that was to do, because Thierry Henry would come along and it's like, Lee, this is easy, mate. Henry's done it now. Right, he did it. Maybe it weren't that great. Do you see what I'm getting at?
Yeah, right, what I mean? 28 when he signed, or 27, 28 when he signed, to do what he done in as quickly as he did. I remember that his first goal against Ipswich. He wasn't even going to play in that game, and we know the story is that Kevin weren't feeling very well that day, and or was it Alan Smith that weren't very well that day? I think it might have been Alan Smith that weren't very well that day. I think it was. That's right, because I don't think Kevin was injured, wasn't he? That's right. And Alan Smith was not well on the day, and he made his debut that day and scored that, and then on the Saturday at Southampton got the hat-trick, didn't he? So
how good was that back then? You had Kevin Campbell, Alan Smith, Paul Merson, and Ian Wright.
Yeah,
how quality is that? You know what I mean? And it's phenomenal. Rocky as well, obviously at the time. But look, I think when you look at what Wrighty is about and what he's done, and how this is about favourites, this is about characters. They ain't a better character than Ian Wright. You know what I mean? You talk about in the dressing room, you talk about off the field antics, you talk about punditry, the smile, the laughter. Everyone loves him. I had to put him in, Lee, and he's my hero. He's my favourite player. I couldn't leave him out, man. And look, I had to leave Thierry Henry out. Thierry Henry. I had to leave him out. Bergkamp. You know what I'm saying?
I've left them out. I've left David Rocastle out, who was a big favourite of mine, when he first broke into the team. Paul Davis, I think, has been mentioned a few times. Love Paul Davis. That had to leave him out, it's left out some players that,
a player I even thought of that I loved? Carnu. Loved
Carnu. I liked Carnu. Van Persie, I'm going to dare I say it? I liked Van Persie when he was at Arsenal, but he went to Man United, so that was the end of that for him. Frank Stapleton was a big favourite of mine when I first come to the. We all wanted to be forwards, even though Liam Brady was it. Frank Stapleton broke my heart when he went to Man United. Broke my heart. Never felt the same about Frank Stapleton after that. Liam Brady actually said to me, "Let it go, Lee. Forget." All these years later, I said, "Liam, I can't." He said, "I can't." But some wonderful players. Loads of characters, and that's what you want.
That's what it's about, man. It's not about the quality. If this was the best ever, Henry and Bergkamp are both walking it, right? But we're talking about the favourites. Let's just quickly finish by the manager. I'm going to go with Arsene Wenger as my favourite Arsenal manager. Who are you going with, Lee?
Jules Graham gave me my best moments. I know that sounds silly, but 89 and beating Spurs in that semi-final over two legs. I've got to go Arsene Wenger. Yeah.
I think you're right there because look, those moments that you're talking about, I was 1 and 2. So I don't remember them. 89, I was too young, unfortunately, and 87, I was born. So I don't remember those moments. But you're right to think that, and George Graham is under respected at Arsenal, in my opinion. I can't believe there's not a statue of him. There should be,
Yeah.
in my opinion. But yeah, look, it's got to be Arsene Wenger, man. It actually has to be.
Yeah, I think you're right. You know what I mean? Again, it ain't about like what he won and all that. Like when he first come to Arsenal.
But he's a character, wasn't he, Wenger? You know, he's
yeah. Listen, you know what I mean. Do you know what there was so even through the dark times of Arsenal, I always wanted him to do well, even though I'd slag him off in the end. You know what I mean? I did want him to go. I still wanted him to do well all the time. Like, please, Arsene, prove everybody wrong, prove me wrong. I was desperate for him to do it. But he was a bloody stubborn sod in the end. But yeah, those first few years and what he brought and what he done, taking on Alex Ferguson like he did, yeah, you got to give credit where credit's due. So for me, yeah, I'm with. I've got to go with Arsene.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Look, let's share with everyone what it is that we have got now because I've put it together on the screen. Here we go. So this is what we have got. This is my best favourite Arsenal 11, should I say. Jens Lehmann, Ben White, Saliba, Adams, Kieran Tierney, Vieira, Fabregas, Merson, Saka, Pires, and Ian Wright. Let me know how many of those you would agree with as your favourites in the chat. Let us know.
I wouldn't lose many games, that Dan.
Well.
That would not lose many games, that.
God, what a team. That is an unbelievable team, isn't it? You think about it. That's honestly just got everything, isn't it? That's absolutely got everything. So yeah, that's my team. So my favourite team. Let me know what your favourite teams are in the comment section and how many of each of mine or Lee's teams that you think you agree with. Let's put your one up, Lee, because yours is different to mine, of course. Here we go. So you have gone for Aaron Ramsdale, Ben White, Martin Keown, Tony Adams, Nigel Winterburn, Edu and Ramsey, Merson, Brady, Kevin Campbell, and Charlie Nicholas. That is a quality side as well.
It's a quality side as well, like that. Really. So,
you know what? We've agreed on 3 players, haven't we? We've both agreed on Ben White, Tony Adams, and Paul Merson.
Yeah. That just shows, isn't it? Like, you know what I mean? So different eras, but like, you know, I'm happy with that team.
There we go. We'll take that. And we both agreed on Arsene Wenger. So there we go.
Yeah.
Listen, that's been a good show, Lee. I've
enjoyed that. That has been really, really good. Like, really enjoyed that.
Reminiscing. We'll have to do more.
Yeah.
Give us some ideas of what teams you want to see, and we'll do it again. If you want us to do a worst 11, if you want to do us the best 11, if you want to do
English 11, we could do
all English 11. We can do. I don't know. We can do underrated 11. There's
best Arsene Wenger 11, best George Graham 11, best Arteta 11. There's
so many. Best Emirates 11, best Highbury 11.
Yeah,
we can do that. Yeah. You know, there's so much we can do. So we'll definitely do that because that was fun. I enjoyed that, Lee.
That was good. Really good. Enjoyed it.
Listen, we're out of here, people. Make sure you do me a favor, hit the like, hit the subscribe, and we will, of course, be back very soon talking all things Arsenal as we react to the Bournemouth game. Lee, I'll let you say goodbye to everyone with the last word, mate.
Listen, enjoy yourself. Now, listen, let's not all get too over the top that we've got a German manager now. It shouldn't be about where he comes from. Let's just get that right. I understand it if you want him to come from England, but let's not worry about it. He's English when he's playing for us now. I don't really know if it's the right thing or the wrong thing. But let's not all fall out over it because we got a German in charge.